Good evening. Can I ask you to picture a sunrise? Rises in the east. Doesn't matter where you are in the world, but it's rising. And as it rises, children are rubbing sleep from their eyes, and they're throwing the covers off, and they're getting themselves ready to go to school. And every day as the earth turns, and every day as the sun rises, billions of students are doing this 5 times a week, at least 180 times in a school year. And they're doing this from the age of 3, maybe 4, all the way until they're 16, 18, maybe 23, 25. And imagine that over the course of that one student's education experience, that at no point in their education do they come home saying, wow, I was heard today. I influenced my experience of my school. And that's student voice. Perhaps it's better to define student voice first by saying what student voice is not. Student voice is not the idea of a choir singing in unison, as beautiful as that is. Student voice is not the idea of students making noise in the classroom or in the hallways or in the cafeteria. It's not a sound. It's not something that you can register on in terms of decibels. Student voice is actually a movement. It's a concept that's being represented by individuals, by academics, by teachers, by students, by educational leaders, and they're saying that our educational system is ready for its next step in the evolution of the history of education. This next step says that students are ready to be the primary actors in their educational experience, not only in the classroom, but also in terms of the programs that are offered to those students, in terms of the principles that drive their educational experience from the top all the way down. So, this title, I hope, helps us to envision the future for education. What can education be when student voice is heard? Now, I've been a teacher since around the year 2000, and since we welcomed in the new millennium, I've seen myself in front of groups of students for many, many times. Many sets of eyes have been staring up at me, and without fail, every year I have found myself delivering lessons on topics of equality, of justice, of democratic principles. And it was in 2009 that I was doing it all wrong. It was in 2009 that the director of my campus gave me a book, and he said, read this book, and it was about transforming schools. And the book was all about how students can take ownership of their educational experience and transform the place, the experience, and this is day in and day out a revolutionary experience for these students. Now, I'll further disclose my age. I was in grade 10 when, in 1991, Michael Fullen, an academic, a writer in Toronto, Canada, wrote this. He said, imagine if we treated students as people whose opinion mattered. In 1991, Michael Fullen was writing right around the time that the Convention of the Rights of the Child was released. In fact, we are approaching the 25th anniversary of the Convention of the Rights of the Child. Now, if you haven't read it recently, Article 12, and I'll paraphrase it here, Article 12 says that children have a right to express themselves. And that right to express themselves should be given increasing weight to impact their world depending on their ability. So obviously you're not going to put a 4-year-old in charge of writing curriculum. But why shouldn't the 15-year-old be a part of that process? Now, student voice. In order to appreciate it and to be able to implement it, we need to be able to understand its many layers. We'll picture the 3 layers of student voice. Maybe we can picture the outer layer and then a second, and then the third most complex layer on the inside. The first layer of student voice is that of presence, of giving students the opportunity to speak. the opportunity to express themselves. Moving to the second layer, we give the students power, that what they speak carries weight, that what they speak influences. And this is the inner core of student voice. And you are hearing student voice if that inner core is resonating and being acted upon. It is agency, where the student's power is actually impacting their world, actually impacting their educational experience. There are many examples of student voice at work. There are many points of inspiration that we can call upon. I'll offer you one. Her name is Nupur Dogra, and she was a grade 9 student in a Canadian educational system. She was studying physical education, and in her class she was told, you got to take care of your body. Nutrition matters. Vitamins, minerals, sleep. And she went to her cafeteria and she saw, whoa, this isn't quite on par with what I'm being told in class. I'm going to make something happen. Supported by her teachers, organized within her classroom, and then moving beyond that, she rallied and proposed to the provincial legislation that it was their obligation to students to ensure that school cafeterias were offering them healthy lunches. And guess what? The legislation was passed. From then on, cafeterias were dishing out nutritious and hopefully delicious food. Now, student voice isn't about these glowing examples. Student voice isn't about those students who make the headlines. It's great to see, it's a great starting point, but student voice is about each and every individual student. It's about making sure that every child, every one of the billions of children who are waking up each day and going to school, making sure that they can come home and say, hey, I made an impact today. I was heard. How do you know that your school, your educational system has student voice? Well, first of all, it begins in the classroom. Teachers are planning their lessons in an interactive way with their kids, finding out where their kids are starting from. What are their students passionate about? It moves beyond the classroom into their extracurricular activities. Are students given the opportunity to organize themselves, the opportunity to make an impact on their world? And lastly, it comes to the leadership, the educational leadership, where our principals, our superintendents are listening to their students. The curriculum designers are consulting with students. So, if we're ready to hear student voice, it means that we are ready to practice those democratic values that we invest so much in, that of justice and equality. Thank you very much.